It's time for the Rutledge Reflective Radio Show live here on KCOH TV Radio, The Boost in Houston, Texas. And I'm your host, Laurel Rutledge, and I cannot wait for the show to start because spending Tuesday mornings with you is a highlight of my week. And if you're listening or watching on one of my pages, be sure to give StreamYard permission so I can see your name and I can see your comments. And let me know where you're tuning in from so I can give you a shout out on the air. I know we have a global audience, and I want to acknowledge you for taking the time to listen to me, for those of you in my time zone, and for those of you who are way out of it. I also want to welcome your questions and your comments. Now, I got to run so I can get ready. See you soon. I'm ready. Are y'all ready? I'm ready. I'm so ready. We're going to get started here shortly as we prep. And hopefully y'all can hear me. So on my LinkedIn and Facebook page. So when y'all join, let me know that you can hear me okay. Because I'm going to assume that you can because it says my mic is working. And I'm going to believe that it is. Yep. Okay. Yeah. So we're going to assume that we're all working. All right. Good Tuesday morning, everybody. It is Tuesday. It is Tuesday. It is Tuesday. Welcome to the Rutledge Perspective Radio Show live with me, Laurel Rutledge. And I got stuff all backwards today. I got this new setup that I'm working, and I got the camera on the wrong side. I don't know. So bear with me today. It might be a little funky today. I hope not. But we do the best we can with what we got, right? So we're going to be talking about Know Thyself today. But as usual, we're going to talk about voting first. And I'm devastated because I cannot find my vote pen. I don't know where it is. I feel naked without my vote pen. So I ordered another one, which means I will probably find the one that I have misplaced. So that's usually how that happens, which is why I ordered it, because I knew the minute I hit send on that order that the other one would turn up. So hopefully when I get home, it'll be there. So we have lots of elections coming up. On the 15th of this week, Lebanon is doing a parliamentary election. So globally, remember what happens to one of us happens to all of us. Okay, I'm not sure who's tuned in on my LinkedIn, but let me know that you can hear me. Because I've got this new mic thing, so I want to make sure it's all working. Okay, so for us here in the U.S., nothing this week, but coming up next week, and I'm giving you guys this because I want you to be ready. I'm assuming that you have registered. If you are 18, that you are registered. That if you know someone who's not registered, that y'all just make a party out of it and go get registered to vote. That you are double checking your the registration polls or registration rolls and making sure that you are still on the registration rolls. Go to your county elections board, your election headquarters, right, and make sure that you have everything you need to be registered, and then go find out what's on the ballot, and then get yourself prepared to go vote. What's your ride going to be? What time are you going to go? Are you going to be able to go early vote? Because that's really even easier because you don't even have to worry about your polling places in early voting. You just go to a poll and vote. Whereas on voting day, you need to make sure you go to your polling place, your assigned polling place, which is why it's important for you to double check that you are registered when you register, right? That they give you your polling place, your VUID, so that you have everything ready to go. So what we have upcoming, May 17th. So that is next Tuesday, May 17th. Tucson, Arizona, you guys got a special election going on. Idaho, you have a statewide judicial general election. Judgeships matter. Judicial elections matter. Elections have consequences, y'all. Do we need any more evidence? Elections have consequences. Idaho, you have a statewide primary on the 17th. Kentucky, a statewide primary. North Carolina, statewide primary. New York, Lackawanna City School District general election. Oregon, special primary election for State Senate District 18. Oregon has a statewide special primary for another special primary for that district. And then Oregon statewide primary. So that's happening on the 17th. Pennsylvania, statewide, a special election for Pennsylvania State Senator District 5. And then you've got the Pennsylvania statewide primary. That's happening on the 17th. And then finally, South Carolina, a special general election for South Carolina House District 97. House District 97. So lots of voting elections, lots of elections going on next week. Make sure that you are registered. Make sure that you are prepared. Elections have consequences. Votes matter. It starts local. Oklahoma, y'all had all those school board elections. I need to follow up on that. Oklahoma City had all these school board elections last week. It starts at the school board, and there are people who are being very vocal about ensuring that they are stacking school boards with people who are going to ban books, people who are going to decide what the curriculum is, who have no instructional design experience whatsoever, and most certainly are not teachers. So just pay attention. Pay attention. Last week was Teacher Appreciation Week, so please pay attention and vote in your school board elections. It's really, really important that you do that. Okay. It is also the continuation of Mental Health Awareness Month. Mental Health Awareness Month. And, you know, one of the things that's come out of the pandemic that I really am happy that has come about is this increased awareness and understanding of the importance of mental health, and how we've got so much going on that people are struggling, right? People are struggling with mental health, and some of that's driven by corporate, some of that's just driven by life. And so it's really important that we pay attention to our mental health and that we honor that mental health is a thing, right? So the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, 800-273-8255. National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, 800-273-8255. They also have in July 16th, there will be a emergency number. 988 will be the emergency dial number for the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. 988. I'm actually really excited about that. So you got 911 for every other emergency, and then you got 988 for a psychological emergency. And I'm sure they're going to be giving us more information on that. Is the Suicide Prevention Lifeline. It's just fantastic. So, and if you feel so inclined to support, that would be lovely as well. Starting in June, I plan to start having some office hours. So I'll give you guys some more information about that. And it'll be just for a monthly membership. You'll be able to have some time with me, whether that is business, career. I will give some HR information, although I'm always very cautious. I am not your HR person. I am not a lawyer, and I'm not a financial advisor. So I can give you perspective on HR because that's my expertise, and that's what I did for a very, very long time. But I always want to be cautious, and there will be disclaimers on that because it's hard to know details. And we'll make sure that it is a safe space and a confidential space. So I also don't want people bringing stuff that's company confidential to that space. But I'll let you guys know about office hours that will be starting in June, as well as my 30-day shifting perspective, kind of free thing that's just on demand, 30 days to shift your perspective. So that'll be coming out in June as well. And I have a number of other things happening. So I'm really excited about June. Going into the last half of this year. It's been an interesting first half of the year. So going into the last half. Also, website is being revamped. So if you get in there a couple times and things look a little funky, we are revamping it, simplifying it, making it clearer for you to see what the services are that I provide. So that's much, much clearer and much simpler. And also, just as a reminder, if you would like to be a guest on my podcast, if you are a woman and would like to be a guest on my podcast, there is a button on my website under the podcast that says I want to be a guest. And so then you send me some information, we get on a call, and then we see if that makes some sense. If you would like to be a guest on the radio show, the same thing. If you go on the radio show page, there's a thing that you fill out, and then we get on a call and see if it makes sense for you to be a guest on the radio show. Most of the guests on the radio show, I really prefer to have guests in studio. So if you're in Houston, that's great. If you're going to be in Houston, that's fantastic. Now, we do them remotely as well. Just sometimes, technology is kind of funny. So I always want it to be high quality. And we've been really lucky to have really great guests remotely as well as in person. So if that's something you'd like, again, you go to my website, laurelrutledge.com, on the radio show page or on the podcast page and say, I want to be a guest. You can also request to be a sponsor of the radio show. There's a button for that too. Request to be a sponsor. So you can do that. And we're going to be seeing some more sponsors here coming up. Going to be doing some things with that here coming up. So you guys will see some more sponsors coming for the radio show. Kind of taking a lull for a while, just realigning some things. So all of the things I counsel you guys to do around alignment, vision, and action, I have to do those same things as well for my business and for my life, right? Get really aligned, make sure things are clean and clear, which is why, in year 5, finally, we're getting really clean and clear on some things from a business and technology perspective. So it's really cool. Probably will be a newsletter coming out soon as well. I'll probably do that on LinkedIn, a LinkedIn newsletter. Now that I have my new mailer thing, which is awesome. MailerLite, if anybody's looking for it, MailerLite, MailerLite is a great platform. No, I'm not getting compensated. It's a great platform, and it's free for up to 1,000 subscribers. So, and even after that, I think it's only like $19 or something. So it's not a great expense, but it's drag and drop. It's just really cool. Putting videos and if you got like Shopify or things like that, you can put all of your content or your product on your emails or in your emails, links, videos, graphics. I mean, it's just really cool, kind of one-stop shop. So think about that. All right. I think that's all of the announcements today. Oh, end of the month, you'll start seeing we're doing the next alignment challenge in June and the next masterclass in June. And then the next group coaching program will kick off in July. So that next one, the Empowered Action Academy, that one will kick off in July. That 3-month program will kick off in July. It'll be July, August, September. So that'll kick off then. Okay, so let's talk about know thyself. Know thyself. And it is really important, especially for leaders, to be really, really clear on who you are. You got to know yourself. You got to know your stuff. You got to know your issues. You got to know who you are. You just got to know you. It's really, really important that you know you, because people are looking to you to know what to do. And when you are able to really be clear and know who you are, that gives you a level of power to be able to not only show up, but also for you as a leader to be able to know, what are your deal breakers? What are the things you are just not going to tolerate? What are the things that you expect from yourself and for others? And where are your weaknesses? Where are your strengths? How can you play up on all of that stuff? This knowing yourself is not just some namby-pamby, like the old thing, to thy own self be true. It's not just some shot in the dark, right? When you really know who you are, when you know everything about you, your quirks, right? Your genius, your excellence, the things you can't do, the things you won't do. When you know that very, very clearly, it makes so many things simple. It makes so many things simple. I got a chance to be in California this last week and was the MC of a conference for the South Bay Business Women's Association. It was the South Bay Women's Conference. And it's an organization that provides scholarships to women and young women who have a financial hardship but have aspirations to go to college. So it provides scholarships to go to college. And some of these are, high school seniors, and then some are women who may have been out of college for a long time and are going back to finish their degree, or everything in between. But the idea is that there's a dream and a vision and a desire and no financial means to, or limited financial means to be able to make it happen. And we had this conference, and it was just an incredible experience. The conference was about connection, community, and compassion. So it wasn't your typical business conference, right? And they've had them before, and they've had lots of business workshops, but that wasn't the point of this one. This was the first really big in-person one in a long time. So most people had not been able to go to one. Many of us have not been able to go one, clearly, because of COVID. So it was the first big in-person one. And even then it was a little bit smaller, I think about half of what it usually was. So it was a nice intimate group, about 150 women. And there were some guys there too, so it wasn't just women. Some incredible vendors that were all women-owned businesses that we got to support. And every speaker talked a lot about this connection. And some of them were talking about, alignment and gut and, your head versus your heart, and making sure that you really thought about what it is you want to do and don't focus so much on the how, because we get caught up in the how and we don't keep just moving. We get stuck, right, in analysis paralysis, trying to figure out the how. And so, I was at this conference and got a chance to meet some incredible women, and actually got to meet one of the people that started following me. She's like, I started following you. I've been following you for months. And that was so cool, because how many people that follow you that you don't already know do you actually get the opportunity to meet? So it was really cool to meet her. And she's a coach as well. So it was really awesome to meet her. She does incredible work. Her name is Diana Allen. So got a chance to meet her. And then afterwards, because I went in early, because that 2-hour time change is a nightmare for me, I got a chance to have dinner with a dear friend of mine. And I've talked about him before. His life is so simple, because it's clear, right? There's just not much that really makes him crazy. They're just it's real simple. The stuff he cares about is on a real short list. And when that's the case, there's not much that's going to make you lose your mind, right? And so we got a chance to have dinner, and then we got a chance to have brunch the next day, and laugh so much. I mean, my stomach was literally hurting. My muscles were sore from laughing so hard. And one of the things he always says is, I know me. I know me. He's like, I know when I'm being crazy. I know when I'm being unreasonable. I know, I know me. And I thought about that, and that was my post yesterday, is I really know me too. I know a lot of things, and there's a lot that I don't know, because there is so much to know in this grand world that we have. But one thing I do know is I know me. I know me. And what that means is it's twofold, right? There's the power and the strength in knowing who you are, being really clear on who you are and how you're going to show up and the things you're going to go to and how you're going to manage those and all those kind of things. There's real power in that. There is also, because anything taken to an extreme, right, can become a weakness. There's also the challenge when you know yourself really well, or you spend a lot of time, pardon me, I don't know what's going on. When you spend a lot of time understanding who you are and knowing who you are, there is this kind of opportunity. There's an opportunity to overanalyze who you are, to be so self-aware and so evaluative. I won't say self-critical, because that is a thing that happens, but so much evaluative of who you are that sometimes you paralyze yourself, because you look so much to what you've done and where you've been and who you are and what you can't do and where your weaknesses are. And you spend so much time in that space that you actually give away your power. You allow other people to start defining you, even though nobody knows you as well as you know you. And here's where that translates for leaders. Remember, leadership is about behavior, not about position, right? You may be technically in a leadership position, but that doesn't make you a leader. A title doesn't make you a leader. Behavior makes you a leader. And so what's important about knowing thyself when you're talking about being in a leadership position is understanding how you show up, how you respond to things, what things set you off, what things give you pause or create chances for you to maybe blame other people, think it's somebody else's problem, all of those kind of things that may be part of your DNA, whether you want to admit it or not, right? They may be things that we're not so proud of that may happen just because we're human. And so when you think very deeply about who you are and knowing who you are, it is an opportunity for you to show up strong, because you're showing up consistently. And when you're not consistent, or when you're feeling some type of way, or when something's off, you know yourself so well, and you have so much power and confidence in that you're actually able to tell your team or whoever else is lying on you, look, it's just one of those days. This is the way it's going to be today. These are some things that are going on. We're going to have some conversations about some other things. It is an opportunity for you to really own who you are and what you're doing and why you're doing it and all that kind of good stuff. There's power in that, power in knowing yourself, power in understanding that, people can really see through you. People can see through you. So when they do that, who are they seeing? Are they seeing you, or are they seeing the persona that you put on? And some of that, we have that, we talked about this before, that imposter syndrome, right? Or those of you who are in toxic environments or environments that you've had to navigate, that idea of you got to kind of twist yourself to fit in. And I don't mean assimilation. I don't mean appropriateness. I don't mean a modifying behavior for an environment. That's not what I mean, because unless it's your thing or you're by yourself all the time, there are going to be times when you have to modify your behavior. There just are, right? Your behavior at the opera is going to be different than your behavior at a football game. So that's not what I mean. What I mean is when you cannot show up as who you are, or you really change to be so much like someone else that you are emulating that you don't know who you are anymore, and neither does anybody else. Neither does anybody else. And when that happens, they don't know who to trust. They don't know how to work with you. They don't know when to believe you. They don't know, can they come to you? Can they not come to you? When can they come to you? How do they come to you? There's so many questions because there's not a clear understanding of who they're working with. Right? And in order to manage through that, it really is helpful and important for you to really think through, wait, I know who I am, and I want people to know who I am, and I want people to understand, what's going on and what we're doing. And by doing that, it's going to enable me to be really clear, not only with myself, but so people know how to approach me. They know how to approach me because I show up all the time as who I am. And guess what? Who's got time to be remembering who you are in every different situation? It's just like lying. Who's got time to lie, man? Because then you got to remember all the lies you told, right? That just takes too much energy. So just tell the truth. Tell the truth to shame the devil, right? Just tell the truth. Because it's so much easier to do that than to try to remember all the stuff that you told people and why you told them and when you told them and who else you told. And did you tell somebody else the same thing or did you tell somebody else just a little bit different? It's just too much. It's the same thing with when you know yourself and how you show up. How consistent are you in the way that you show up? I'm working with several clients this month, and some things that I'm working with them on are decision making, culture, kindness. And on the Fireside Show on Thursday, we're going to be talking about this culture of kindness. What does that really mean? And if you're going to be kind, does that mean you can't be courageous? Does kindness mean you can't tell the truth? Does kindness mean you can't have difficult conversations? Does kindness mean you can't say no? Now, I don't believe it does, because you guys have heard me. It's not unkind to be clear. It's not unkind to set boundaries. It's not unkind to know what your deal breakers are. That's not unkind. What can be unkind is your delivery, but having those boundaries and knowing what's important for you and knowing what needs to happen or can happen or absolutely will not happen, that's not unkind. But we've created these cultures that disagreement we automatically tag as being unkind or mean. That's why I say, it's not about, we don't want it to be a family feeling. I don't want my business to feel like a family. Everybody's family here. We want everybody to feel like a family. No, you don't. No, you don't. That sounds really good, but think about what it means when everybody feels like family. Are you really able to have the conversations you want to have? Are you really able to say the things you need to say? Do you tolerate behavior that you wouldn't normally tolerate because it's family? Now, sometimes it's the opposite, right? Family, you really speak the truth in families. And there's no holds barred and feelings get hurt. There may be blood on the floor, right? In some families. Because it is a truth-telling environment. But when you're in an organization and the organization is really wanting to really focus on people being happy and people being engaged and people loving to work there and people, feeling like they belong. That's the only downside, not the only, one of the downsides I see to this adding belonging to the DEI space, diversity, equity, inclusion space. Now it's diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. Is we have to be careful about the words we use and what we mean by them. Because the reality is everyone's not going to, quote unquote, belong in every organization or in every department within an organization. Because there are cultures that vary. So when we talk about belonging in that context, they're talking about belonging with a capital B. Good morning, Mommy Ann. They're talking about belonging with a capital B, right? Creating spaces that are inclusive, creating spaces where people feel like they can show up as themselves. But when we start talking about, we want everybody to be happy. We want it to just feel like family. We want everybody to love being here and love working here. Well, okay, but how far are you going to take that? Because if you're telling somebody something they don't want to hear, they're not going to be happy. If you make someone engage in a project or put them on a project or make them lead a project that they don't believe in, they're not going to be engaged or they're not going to be happy. And so what do? Do you not do it? Do you not take care of your business? Do you not move forward because somebody's going to be unhappy? You have to know yourself. And when you know yourself, you can project that into your organization, right? And the organization has to know itself. That's the thing that we're seeing a lot this almost post-COVID, right? Or at least post-COVID pandemic, maybe COVID endemic now, is that organizations are having this truth-telling space of really understanding who they are and how they show up and who people think they are, what people really believe about their cultures and how they operate and where they operate. All that stuff is starting to show up now. And so you have to know yourself as an organization, and the organization, you have to know yourself as an individual, but organizations also have to know themselves. They have to know who they are. If you are someone like a classic GE that is up or out, right? For years and years and years, up or out. They have these management development programs, up or out, you got to do, and every 2 years you're moving. Well, okay, but that creates a culture that I got to move every 2 years. And so I'm going to make the biggest splash I can make in 2 years so I can get the best opportunity for the next 2 years. That sounds great on the surface. They're making an impact, but are they? And what are they learning? Are they learning to live with the decisions they made and what the fallout may be, right? Or are they just learning to make a big splash and impact be damned? What does that mean, right? And how do those folks function well outside of that same environment? You got to know yourself. Gee, that's what you created. You created that kind of organization. The organizations that create time for people to go to school or create opportunities for people to really move up. The organizations that say we are only going to promote from within and then do that. That's a beautiful thing until you get to such a size that you need to have exponential growth, or you buy another piece of a business or something and you all of a sudden start having to hire into higher levels from outside. You didn't promote somebody within. All of a sudden you've lied. All of a sudden, people are unhappy. They're not engaged. You've got to know who you are and then communicate and operate and act accordingly. One of the greatest strengths you will have is that people feel like you're consistent. They feel like you're consistent. They know what to expect. And if you're having one of those off days or off times, that the consistency is, if she's not doing well, she's going to let us know. Or if something's going wrong, she's going to let us know. We don't have to worry about being surprised, right? Those organizations that love to surprise people, or those organizations that love to see people mess up because they like to publicly shame people when they don't do well. And everyone makes mistakes. But those organizations that relish in the mistake, they relish in the shame, they relish in putting people down, know thyself. And if you are in one of those organizations, how is that impacting you? How is that changing the way you lead? How is that changing the way you show up in an organization? How is that changing the way you interact with people? If you are in an organization that is so toxic and you are staying, why? Now, don't get me wrong. We got to do what we got to do until we can do what we want to do many times. And I don't want you to hurt you because you're mad at them. Don't just leave just because. And you always have a choice. You always have a choice. Some choices are better than others. Some choices are easier than others. And you're not free from the consequences of the choices you make, but you always have one. And so if you're in one of those organizations that's showing up, and how has that changed you, right? Know thyself. How has that changed you and how you engage with people? Are you still adamant about being honest and forthright and kind? Again, it's not unkind to be clear. And kind, but honest. Or are your kindness, is that just sweeping things under the rug? You know, for leaders who are in organizations where you have to do performance reviews, one of the worst things you can do is be so kind that you are unclear. No one should go into a performance review and be surprised. No one. And here's what happens. Even if you have the best intentions, right? When you bookend a performance issue, when you bookend it with beautiful highlights, what's missed is the books. You are fantastic. We are so glad that you're here. You know, we really need to work on the way that you engage with people because it's really off-putting and our customers are not really happy. But you know, we are really excited because you bring so much other stuff, right? They didn't hear any of that stuff in the middle. None of that. Because you didn't have the courage and the confidence and the understanding of the kindness in constructive feedback, clear feedback. Tell people, you know, we are really excited that you're here. You bring so much to the table. And in order for us to take advantage of that and for you to be able to make an impact the way we know you want to make an impact and continue to build and develop your career here and continue to help us build this business, this is the thing we have to work on. We have to address this issue in order to take advantage of the amazing things and the amazing skills that you have. You've still been kind. You've still acknowledged that they're fantastic and that you're glad that they're there. And you have been very clear that there is something that is a gap, something that is missing. Now you have to know yourself in order to do that. Do you have the courage? Have you been paying attention? Did you have an organization or an engagement or a relationship where you just kind of swept things under the rug until you get mad and then it all comes out like a volcano? I always use the puppy analogy, right? When you get a new puppy, if they poop on the floor while you're gone and you come back 6 hours later and you want to stick their nose in the poop, they don't get it. They don't get it, right? There's too much time that has passed between the incident and the consequences. So you've got to know who you are and how you're showing up and how you're engaging with people. And if you have a fear of clarity, you need to know that. Not only for yourself, but you need to know how that shows up for other people. In relationships, personal and professional. If you're leading, how does that show up, right? If you are afraid of telling the truth because your experiences tell you that telling the truth is painful, know that. Be really clear with yourself about that. The one place you have got to be totally honest and compassionate is when you are talking to you. When you're thinking about you, that's part of mental health month, right? The words we say to ourselves are so impactful. Those stories we tell ourselves about who we are and what we can and cannot do. It's not just with other people, but that stuff we have in our head, that stuff we talk to ourselves about, shows up externally. It shows up in how we engage. It shows up in how we execute. It shows up. And so you've got to know who you are and be very clear on what you're really strong at and what you're really weak at and how some of those strengths, when taken to an extreme, can become a weakness. All of that. You've got to spend just as much time evaluating others that you're engaged with as you do evaluating yourself. And understanding yourself and having compassion and grounding with yourself. Because when you can do it at home, right, when you do it for you, then you're able to have the energy and the drive and the experience to do it for and with others. And that's really important. It's really important because who you are and how you show up has an impact on everything around you and everyone around you. It's really critical that you know that, because that knowing thyself is a superpower. It's a superpower. Knowing what your deal breakers are. Because the other thing about knowing that is you don't have to get mad. That's the beauty in seeing this friend of mine. He very rarely gets mad about anything. Very rarely, because he's clear. He's real clear. And so there's no use in getting mad. He's just not going to do it. He doesn't have a whole lot of conversation about stuff. He's not going to let you mistreat you. Let you mistreat him. That's not going to happen, right? That's not an option. And he's really clear about that. Now, again, he is not rude until such time as you are clearly not listening, and then his rude is on 10,000, right? So just, you got to get yourself prepared. And if it gets there, you earned it, because he told you, right? But I say, I done told you. He told you. He was very clear. He is nothing if not clear. But he knows himself so well that there are things that he knows that are non-negotiable for him. And because they're so non-negotiable, there's no argument, there's no feelings, there's no emotion, there's none of that tied up in it. It's so clear. And when you come from that place of clarity and strength of knowing who you are and your strengths, right, and your weaknesses and your deal breakers, your desires, when you come from that place, it is so much easier to show up in strength, to show up and deliver value because you know yours. You know what you can and cannot do. It also gives you an opportunity to really be focused on solutions, because see, you know you. You have confidence in you. You know what you can and cannot do. And so you are not intimidated by those folks who do things that you can't. Or fill gaps that you have. You are not intimidated because you know you. And in fact, the best leaders are leaders who do understand their weaknesses and go out and seek ways to fill those gaps, either by their own learning or by getting those resources that have that, and then being collaborative. But you got to know yourself first. You got to know yourself first. And we're going to do some shout outs here in a few minutes. I have had the pleasure of doing this show. We're going into year 3. It was year 2 in March, right? We did year 2 in March. So we're going into year 3. And Jerry and I were just talking this morning about how, we just held it down, man. And we have been very, very fortunate to not be sick during this time. And, now folks are getting ill and yes, COVID too, but I'm still wearing my mask too, because guess what? I didn't get the flu. I didn't have a cold. And when I don't have a mask on and I'm at home, these allergies are killing me. They're killing me. Whatever this is in the air is making me insane. It's just, I don't know. So we talk all the time about how, you gotta keep showing up. You gotta make things happen. And when you do that and you're open, and you're also open to cutting things off that don't serve you. I said this a long time ago. When you are holding so tight onto things, you don't leave space for the things that are meant for you to show up. You got to let stuff go. You got to prune things. You got to cut things off. You got to cut them down. My mom's roses in February, she cuts them down to the ground. Cuts them down to the ground. And they come back and they're gorgeous, right? You're supposed to cut roses, February 14th? That's a good time to prune everything? And you cut them back and they're gorgeous. Okay. But that's because she's willing to let it go. That's good. I go out and prune my flowers because I'm willing to let it go. I just cut off all the tops of my Gerber daisies because they were all dying. Now, that made me really sad, but I've got all these really beautiful green leaves and I'm believing there's going to be some more daisies that come up through that, right? Because these were dead. You've got to know you and be willing to let some things go in order to continue to build. But knowing yourself is the first place to start. Because if you know who you are, you can know what to let go because you're tuned into what doesn't feel right. That gut. These women at this conference last week talked about gut a lot. You don't hear people saying, ooh, I didn't think that was going to happen. I didn't think that was right. What you do hear people saying is, man, I should have trusted my gut. I should have listened to my gut. Because your gut knows. One of them said your head always lies, but your gut always knows. And I believe that to be true. And if you spend some time knowing who you are and getting really clear on who you are, really knowing who you are, the good, the bad, the ugly, as I said, the silly, the crazy, right? The unreasonable, the stubborn, the giving, the serving, all of the stuff, all the things. When you know all the things about you, then you have a better gut. Your gut is clear when something's not right. Something in your world doesn't feel right. Your gut gets clear. And so it enables you to show up for yourself and for everyone else who's relying on you with strength and with power and with clarity. And if you're showing up in a business, when you really know you, when something goes awry, you can very quickly look to home and say, oh, okay, was that something that triggered a behavior that I probably shouldn't have had show up here? You can look to home and know that. Or you can look to home and say, nope, you know what? That was not me. That was not about me. And you can be honest about that. All right, we'll take a quick break and do some shout outs. And one of those, I think this is Nicosia. I'm gonna have to find out where that is. So excited, Nicosia. I love hearing where you guys are calling from.
Yeah, this is new. Atlantis. You know where that is?
Atlantis?
Atlantis.
Lanus.
Lanus.
Oh, Lanus.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, see it. Whatever.
Yeah.
Buenos Aires.
Yeah.
You know what that is.
Yeah.
Milko, you know what that is.
Mm-hmm.
Helsinki, you know what that is. Finland.
Yes.
Germany, France, Brazil, Puerto Rico, Malaysia.
Awesome.
Malaysia, United Kingdom, Mexico, Argentina coming up in double numbers today. We've got New York in the building. That's good. Atlanta.
New York. I'll see y'all in the month.
Okay.
Yeah.
St. Louis, Pittsburgh, Los Angeles, San Antonio, Dallas, Fort Worth, Kansas City, Missouri, Chicago, and Houston.
Love it. Love it. Thank you guys for tuning in. And I saw on the podcast, I had people downloading the podcast from Gambia. Ooh. That was a new one. I've never had people from Gambia. And I think I had, not Zaire. I think it was there was another one. I can't remember. And New Zealand was downloading this last week. So thank you guys so much. I love this local audience. I love this national audience. And I love this global audience. I'm telling y'all, I love it. Love it. Love it. Y'all are doing my bucket list.
Hello.
Hello. How are you this morning? Thank you for tuning in. I love it. I love it. I love it. Join me on Fireside, y'all, too, because we can chit chat on Fireside. So firesidechat.com/Laurel Rutledge. Join me on Fireside Thursday evenings, 7 p.m. Hey, we got people waving in the window here on the corner of Wichita and Alameda at the historic KCOH-TV radio station, The Boost. You can see them walking by a little bit. So I love being on this corner.
That's your Good Morning America.
That's my Good Morning. We got our Good Morning America, right? Seeing the people. So, it's when I think about this knowing thyself, and that's why I love the global audience too, because another thing that the pandemic has brought to us is how small the world is, how really small the world is, and how interconnected it is, right? There probably was a period of time where maybe COVID would not have spread as much because people weren't moving around as much, not globally, right? People really weren't. The world wasn't as open as it is. And it's so beautiful to have the world be so open, to be able to see for yourself, right, how green it is in Ireland. I can't wait to do that. That's on my bucket list. To see for yourself, the pyramids, to see for yourself, right, those beautiful white villas in Greece, to see for yourself, the Sagrada Familia in Barcelona. Those things, right? To be in Buenos Aires, to be in Sao Paulo, to be in these places and to meet these people. It's a beautiful thing that the world is so open and that we are so interconnected. That's also the power of really knowing yourself, because if you know yourself, you also open yourself up to experience things that fill gaps for you, to experience people, right? You're open to ideas. You're open to perspective.
Can I add something to what you said about knowing yourself? Because when you were calling out all those places, I remember saying, I know me. I know myself. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not trying to go there for. I'm not, I can't. But since the pandemic and since listening and looking and getting in touch with our global audience, and the global audience has grown. Myself is now saying, no, I didn't really know myself when I was saying that. So is there an opportunity that we really don't know ourselves, but we're learning ourselves? But because I thought I knew myself, but I didn't.
Right. Well, I think what has happened, it's Laurel's perspective, the genius that is Laurel Rutledge, right? my perspective is that, one, you're always learning and growing, right? You're always changing because the world around us changes, and if we're not learning, if we're not growing, right, we're dying. And so I think we're always morphing, and our perspectives change all the time. I think the challenge, or not the challenge, the connection to knowing yourself is being willing to listen and accept that. Being willing to say, you know what, I had no desire to go to any of these places, but now that I'm seeing them and they're showing up all the time and it's our audience, maybe I do kind of want to check that out. Right? Now, I love going to see new places. I get bored. So I love going to see new places and do new things. There are some places that I'm like, oh, I don't know, that I need to see that. I would love to see it, but I don't know. Do I want to do that by myself? I have to wait and see. And who can go on this trip with me? Those kind of things. But that ability to know, okay, am I not going because I'm afraid? And if I'm afraid, okay, but can I do something to face that fear or alleviate that fear so I don't eliminate an opportunity just out of fear? Right? If you know yourself, you can make that discerning decision. Right? Is it fear, or is it just because I really don't want to? I really just have no desire to do that, right? There's some places I just really have no desire to go. And there are other places that if I could be on a plane tomorrow, I would be there just because I want to see it, like Portugal. That's at the top of my list.
When you brought up Greece, because my guest, she had just come back from Greece today, and then you brought up Greece. I desire to go to Greece, and that has never been one of my, I'm like, who want to do that? Who's trying to do that? But I guess now, you know, as you morph, as you say, we have more desires, and we are learning ourselves on a daily basis. And then you say get into the root cause of the problem, because I think a lot of that was fear. Like, I don't want to fly that far, and feeling claustrophobic, being on a plane that long. So you have to, you don't mean you don't want to, you have a fear of going.
Right. So exactly. Yeah, I've got a friend who's very much claustrophobic, and also, you know, 6'4". And so, you know, when we fly, we have to fly business class. No, I fly. Now, this is me being bougie, but I don't fly across the ocean economy. I don't do that. I need a seat that lays down.
What?
I fly overnight because I'm going to sleep, because when I get there, I don't want to lose a day, right? So I'm ready to rock and roll when I get there. That's just the way my body works. Coming back is a nightmare, right? Going west is really hard for me. So even just going to LA, that 2 hours, if I can go a day early, I try to do that, because that 2 hour time difference, because I'm a morning person, just kills me. Because when you're still up at 8, it's already 10 o'clock for me. It's way past my bedtime, right? So I know these things. And so for him, you know, that fear, that claustrophobia really gets him, but he's not staying home. So he's like, I get business class, I get the seat that lies down, and I get the aisle. I'm good, right? And in some cases, I know people who actually have, you know, medication. They have a Valium, or they have something that takes down the anxiety when they travel, because they're not going to not travel. That's not an option. But they have a real fear. So their choices are stay home or do something about the fear. They choose to do something about the fear because they know themselves well enough to know that the fear is something that they can address. Now, there are truly some phobias, right? Like, I have a serious needle phobia. It is serious. But there are things that I have to do, right? I have to take these vaccines. I have to get these boosters if I want to stay healthy. And so I just have to get my mind right and not think about it, right? And especially dentists, those needles, because they don't just stick you and move. I can't, right? So I take really good care of my teeth, because I do not want to have go in and have a cavity filled. Because see, that needle thing, y'all, it's a thing. So that knowing yourself enables you to be discerning about, why am I doing or not doing something? And does that make sense for me at my core, in my gut? Is that really who I am, or am I just responding? I always tell people, I need you to lead with your heart and act with your head. One of the speakers, her name is Sabrina Rising, one of the things she said is, your head lies all the time. Your gut tells the truth. Your mind lies. Your mind's always going to tell you lies. And it's true. Those are the stories we tell ourselves, right? Because the experiences we had, maybe the trauma we had, whatever. There are stories that our mind has based on our experiences. The mind tells us. They are usually based in a real experience, but the story itself may not be true. That's the beauty of therapy, y'all. You can honor that there is a story, but if you know yourself, you can evaluate, okay, here's the facts. The fact is the experience happened. Those are facts. That is real. That is true. And here's how it felt. But this story about the facts, that may or may not be true. So I need to think about that a little bit more. Right? So my experience is I am deathly afraid of needles because I had an experience where I had, when I was very young, where I had, my mom laughs at me. I swear this nurse stood across the room and threw the needle at me.
They couldn't.
I just know. I told Mama, I said, yes, you did. Yes, you did. Now, I know that's not true. But that's what my brain, right? My brain says, when you were little, you were in a doctor's office and she stood across the room and threw this needle, and that's why you're afraid of needles, right? So we know that story isn't true. What is true is that the pain of needles, and likely the pain is because I am fearful, which means I'm not relaxed, right? So I contribute to that a lot. I also know as I've matured, because I am nervous and I'm stressed, I go out of my way to relax completely because I don't want to cause my own pain. So if you're still hurting me when I am focused on being very, very relaxed, relaxing my muscles, making sure nothing's tight, then I know you don't know what you're doing, and that's a problem, right? When you've got a fear of needles and it takes them forever to actually start an IV, that's a problem, right? So when we know ourselves, we're able to dissect these things that we're thinking so that we can understand, is that true? Is it opinion? Is it based on a real experience? And does it have to translate into what we do next, right? Is that a reality or is that a fear? Is that a true desire or is that a fear, right? I have a fear of falling. I don't have a fear of heights. You can take me up as high as you want to, but I have a fear of falling. So edges bother me, right? Like the Grand Canyon, I can't get to the edge of the Grand Canyon. And I'm glad I got to see it, right? But that whole, they got that lookout thing, this glass, that glass walkway that you used to, no. Even if a video comes up in my feed of those people, it seems like it's always in Asia, these places in Asia where they have these glass bridges over these big chasms. And you see people walking and their knees are shaking and some of them are crawling. See, just watching them, my whole body goes on alert, right? Because I have this fear of falling. But I know that's a fear. So when we went to Belize, I went ziplining. I don't ever have to do that again.
How was that?
I don't ever have to do it again.
No, for real. Why?
For real. I don't ever have to do it again. It was okay. I mean, it was my brother and my sister-in-law and I, and there were 7 different lines. So we had to go 7 lines. You went all the way up to the top of the mountain, and there were 7 lines. And I went tandem every time. So the guy, bless his heart, the first time you sit down and then you just step off the platform, right? And it goes, and they're telling you how to stop, and they're like, don't stop in the middle. If you end up stopping in the middle, we can find a way to come get you, blah, blah, blah. But, and each line carries 14 tons or whatever. So it's not, unless they really haven't taken care of it, you would have to be the size of 12 elephants for the lines to break. And I got in the little thing. I sat down and I couldn't step off the platform. I couldn't.
Yeah.
I could not do it. So we went random on the first one, right? So they connect you to the person and you go down the thing, and it's actually really beautiful and all that kind of stuff. We got to the next platform. He's like, okay, you're gonna go. And I was like, oh, no. You just thought. I said, because you just bought a tandem ride on all 7 of these lines today with this one right here. So I don't ever have to do it again. I can say I've done it. But it was not beautiful enough or freeing enough for me to say I need to do it again. Yeah. Because now they got those lines that like you're standing on a surfboard kind of thing and going down or right. No. But see, I know me. You can take me up. You can put me in a cabin. You can have me like being somewhere up there to be able to see it would be beautiful. I love like beautiful decks and things like that. I love that.
So was it because it was fear, because you said it's about the 12 elephants or whatever. Now I know in my mind I'd be like,
It's
that thing ain't sturdy enough.
yes.
I'm gonna tear it all down.
It's a fear of falling. Absolutely.
So that's what it is.
Absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
the experience, was it worth it?
So I am very glad I did it. I went ziplining. I'm glad I did it. It was a very interesting experience, and it was freeing from the standpoint of now I can say I did it. I don't ever have to do it again.
It's like those Popeyes chicken sandwiches. I can say I did it, and I don't have to ever do it again. It was all that hype.
All the hype about the sandwich. Yeah. So it was beautiful, and it was fun, and there was other stuff around it. You know, I was there with my brother and sister-in-law. I mean, there was other stuff about the experience that made it great. But yeah, I don't have to do that again.
You know, talking about knowing yourself, the other day when Dr. Cynthia Hickman said that she and I should go bike riding. I said, yes, and we'll get no bike ride and Laurel to go with us. And you said you ladies have fun.
Yes.
So that's knowing yourself, because you just don't want to do it.
Mm-mm. That's not about fear.
It's not even about fear. You just don't want to do it.
I just don't. It is not something that is comfortable or enjoyable for me at all whatsoever. I just don't. No.
You can't even be shamed into doing it.
No. You already shamed me in the garden. I can't be shamed in the bike riding too. No desire whatsoever. But that's what I think when we know ourselves, we can actually acknowledge. We can open ourselves up to learning something new, because we understand what it means to be a beginner, and we understand what real fear is, right? So those who have like fear of speaking, if you know that and you know it's a fear, there's nothing about it that's really that can impact you physically, right? Now, maybe you get really sweaty or you faint or whatever it is, right? What are the things you can do to potentially face that fear that enables you to engage in a way that can only be done through speaking, right? Through public speaking. What can you do? So that by knowing yourself, you can evaluate those things that you're holding back from or deciding not to do, to understand what the impact is of that choice on you and others, the impact on your purpose, the impact on your ability to serve. You can really get clear about that. But you can also decide, I get that. I'm going to find a different way to do something. Or, you know what? I get that. And this is so important to me. I'm going to figure out how to face it. But it requires you knowing yourself to be able to discern and have that power of knowing, is this fear, or is this just, I don't want to, or is this just, it's not enjoyable. It's not something I want to do. I have a choice in how I want to use my time. I'd rather use my time doing something else, and be okay with whatever that is. And when you do that, again, when people are looking to you and they're trying to work with you, whether that is as an entrepreneur, your own business, as a coach, as an advisor, as a doctor, as a lawyer, as a business owner, whatever it is, if you're in an organization and people are on your team, when you know yourself, it enables you to show up consistently, and consistency builds trust.
Mm-hmm.
Consistency builds trust. Even if they don't like you, they know what to expect consistently. Because you're being consistent, because you know who you are. If you're going to consistently be ugly to people, they know that. They know that. They know what to expect. So they don't expect anything different. They may not enjoy it and they may avoid it at all costs, but they can trust that you are going to be who you are. And they can work the way they want to work around that. And part of knowing yourself is knowing how that impacts other people, so you understand the impact that you're making. That's the other side of that, knowing yourself. Because you are responsible for the impact you make. You may have good intentions, but your good intentions may have a bad impact, and you own that impact. I did a podcast on that called Good Intentions, Bad Impact. We can sometimes have the best of intentions and still have a bad impact. It's called unintended consequences, right? We are free to make choices. We are not free from the consequences of the choices we make. That's why I think we've got to be careful about calling everything a cancel culture. There are some things that absolutely need to be canceled, and some people that absolutely need to be canceled. And then there's some others that we don't need to cancel them. We need to find a way to discipline them. Maybe they're not kicked off the network. Maybe they are kicked off that show and they go back to being a runner. Maybe it's a demotion, right? Because if you automatically remove people from something, then they never connect their actions to the consequences. They can just decide, oh, well, they just didn't like me. They just didn't understand. No. We want to make clear the connection between your actions and these consequences. That's how people learn. You learn, hopefully you learn not to touch the stove because you obeyed your parents. But many people learn not to touch the stove because they got burned.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you got to get burned in order to learn. Ooh, that was good. Sometimes you got to get burned in order to learn.
Mm-hmm.
And when you learn and know yourself, then you're able to show up and help other people show up. All right. Any other questions or comments online? I don't see any on my side.
No, not on my side.
Okay. All right, y'all. It's been a great Tuesday. Thank you all for being here with me on the corner of Alameda and Wichita in the historic Third Ward at the historic KCOH TV radio station, The Boost in Houston, Texas. Thank you all for showing up locally, nationally, and around the globe. I appreciate it. Every single listen, every single download. I'll catch you guys. The podcast will drop Wednesday morning. I'll be on Fireside Thursday night. Catch you there. Hopefully we can engage. We're going to be talking about kindness and courage on Fireside. Does a culture of kindness really mean you can no longer be courageous? Can you not have those conversations? So let's dive into that. Join me on the stage, ask your questions, make your comments, jump on video on Fireside, firesidechat.com/Laurel Rutledge. Alignment, Vision, Action is the name of the show. All right, everybody. We'll see you next week. Bye.